A couple of local derbies for you today. Over at the Green Yards, it's Melrose against Hawick in Premier 1, whilst here at Netherdale, Gala take on Kelso. Welcome to Borders Rugby Roundup, and let's start at Premier 1 at the Green Yards, Melrose against Hawick. Here's Grahame MacGregor.
Well, a third win in a row for Melrose moved them up the table, but it came at the expense of border rivals Hawick, who will rue so many missed chances at a wet and blustery Green Yards. The only tries of the game came from Melrose, one in the first half when number 8 Stuart Johnson romped over, and then shortly after the break when number 2 came from centre James Lew. For Hawick, they came closest when Rory Hutton slid over only to knock on at the line, and in the end they had to settle for a penalty goal from standoff Ali Weir.
It was a massive week for us in the fact that we got beat today. We're down second or third bottom, probably getting cemented down there a bit. Whereas today, you know, with other games being off, we can jump right up the table and then we can have a real kick at it. That was really our last chance for a shot at the title. If we were beaten today, I think it would have been forgetting. It would have been a long season for now. So very important for that.
We're just going to have to regroup. It's all the players we've got. We've not got money to bring in folk for here, there and everywhere. We can't do it. So you've just got to get on, knuckle down, work hard, and hopefully we'll get a bit of luck and we can get a victory next week.
With Selkirk's game at Bridgehoch against Stirling County postponed, it means Melrose climb above them in the table to 6th position. Selkirk are now 7th, with Hawick in 10th place. Next week, Selkirk are at home to Boroughmuir, Melrose travel to Watsonians, and Hawick go to Stirling. Later in the programme, we give you the results of our Scotland-New Zealand competition from last week. We also set you a brand new competition where you can win tickets to see Scotland take on South Africa on November the 15th at Murrayfield. But here at Netherdale in Premier 2, it was Gala against Kelso, a real local derby, and here's Laing Speirs.
Gala had to work hard in terrible conditions here to win by 16 points to 0 against Kelso. They deserved the win largely because they harnessed the elements in the second half fairly effectively. Some good downwind kicking from Fraser Thompson. Dean Keddy was pretty effective, and Gala took on the Kelso pack, strong pack, and coped with them remarkably well at the line out. There were not going to be any fireworks on a day like this. There was a try for Gala from Malcolm Horsburgh, some good kicking by Craig Parker, and Gala just deserved the win, but Kelso were not the team that they were the previous couple of weeks.
There had been times with this young side where sometimes I think it's just going to happen in the second half when you've got the win behind you, and it's happened a couple of times this season, so I was delighted just in the way the boys played out the whole 80. We kicked, I thought, very intelligently. Dean Keddy had a cracking game there. And the forwards just squeezed them, and our backs still managed to get the ball through their hands on a number of occasions in horrendous conditions. But I think just the real appetite and desire was there today, and it's something that we've got to start taking on the road.
Thought it was a good game. Both sides played hard rugby, typical Borders game. We played in the corners. Dean Keddy had a great game, first game for Gala. Just used the ball well, and we just pressed them. And at the end of the day, I think that just playing the right type of rugby was always going to win it.
Yeah, great win for the boys. It was a type of game that I think we needed this season. We've really been kind of edged out in all the close ones we've had so far. But it's a typical Borders derby, really tight, and it's really pleasing to get that win in. It's been such a tight game.
There's been a few games that we've had, and our first up tackling's been pretty poor. But to nil Kelso it's phenomenal. It's just a great effort from all the boys.
With news of the other 2 games involving local clubs in Premier 2, here's Richie Gray.
Jed Forest go back to winning ways with a 16-11 home win over GHA, but they left it late with 2 Chris Richards penalties winning the match after GHA had held the lead 11-10 with a few minutes remaining. Jed's only try was scored by Scott Laidlaw.
You always want to see how your team will react for a defeat last week, and we got the perfect answer the day. The boys showed a lot of spirit and grit there to grind that result out, and the most horrible conditions you could want to play in. At the end of the day, we got the result we were looking for.
With news of Peebles' game at Neilson Park against Haddington, here's Bill Polson.
3 penalties by standoff Jamie Peters, and his conversion of scrum half Sam Johnson's try after 38 minutes looked a meagre reward for Haddington's first half pressure with the wind behind them. As Peebles had threatened on the breakout, they must have hoped to overturn their 16-point deficit with elements in their favour. Haddington had other ideas. Keeping the ball in the forwards, they controlled the game, making the visitors' opportunities scarce. The only second-half score was a 4th penalty for Peters. At the rainy, wind-swept Neilson Park, it finished Haddington 19, Peebles 0.
A quick look at the Premier 2 table and we can see Jed Forest in second, but just 1 point now behind Dundee, who lost at Stewmel. Gala are 5th, Peebles 7th and Kelso 9th. There's another local derby next Saturday when Kelso host Jed, while Peebles play Aberdeen at the Gites and Gala visit Musselburgh.
Langham and Berwick's games were both postponed in National League 1, but in Division 2, Hawick YM were 16-0 up against league leaders White Craigs and looked set to preserve their 100% record, but the visitors scored 21 unanswered points in an impressive comeback. That leaves just one Border team unbeaten this season, and Hawick Lindeen did it again in East League 1, beating Portobello 16-5 to make it 8 out of 8. Hawick Harlequins beat Dalkeith, and Duns won on the road at Dunbar. In Division 2, Earlston remained top of the table with a win over Leith, Walkerburn lost, Gala YM won, and St Boswell's match was postponed. Don't forget next week's fixtures are on our homepage at our website, as is our Borders Rugby ranking service, which still has Hawick YM as the most successful Borders core team so far this season, with Jed moving closer in second and Melrose climbing from 8th to 4th. Langham and Jed Forest have scored the most tries so far on 25, with Kelso in third on 24. Top Borders point scorer in Premier 1 is Scott White of Melrose with 62, ahead of David Cassidy from Selkirk on 57. In Premier 2, Dan Botwood of Peebles heads the list with 82, ahead of Gala's Bruce Dick on 52 and Kelso's Kevin Utterson on 51. National League's top Borders point scorer is Berwick's Matthew Hackett with 64. Neil Cubbin from Langham has 53 and Barry Hill of Hawick YM currently on 46.
Well, before we go today, we'll give you the result of our Scotland-New Zealand competition. We asked you, or Roy Laidlaw asked you, what was the final score in that draw in 1983 between the two teams? Well, it was 25-25, and Connor Dunn from Kelso was the first correct answer out of many out of the hat. Now, this week's competition involves Scotland against South Africa. We have tickets for November the 15th, the match at Murrayfield, courtesy of Scottish Rugby. And the last time Scotland won was way back in 2002. We scored 2 tries that day, including one by an ex-Hawick player. Who was he? That's what we want to know. If you think you know the answer, bordersrugby@hotmail.com. We'll take all the correct answers and put them into a hat, and one lucky person will be going to Murrayfield on November the 15th to watch Scotland face the Springboks. But that's it for this week on Borders Rugby Roundup. Join us again next Monday.